back to the channel. So today we're back on the 2001 Cobra. As you know, where we left off last time, it had beat me to death. I've cut brake lines and everything else. It was a bad day. So let me go ahead and show you. I've done some work off camera to get us to this point. All right, so this is the passenger side. So I went ahead and done everything that we did on the other side. With more knowledge, this one came off a lot easier. But I also did go ahead and remove the struts. So that's the three 15mm bolts that are up top. So I lowered it down and went ahead and took those off. So now everything suspension wise is out of the way in preparation for lowering this engine. Now I did learn online where I've seen people say they've dropped this and just tilted it to one side while supporting the other side and took a pipe off, and vice versa. So we might give that a try. If I see that I'm gonna have too much problem getting the studs out and just getting the stuff loose, I will take it from there. But it looks like if we drop this subframe, I don't know, we'll just have to get into it and see. Like I said, it's my first time getting into it. So, but right now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and take my grinder and cut these tops of the ball joints off so I can use my shop press and just go ahead and get all these out in preparation of getting this clean. Now, if you don't have a shop press, you can go to the local parts store and rent ball joint press tool. Looks like a big C-clamp, and you can probably use the same thing for those bushings. But right now, let's cut those off and get it over there on the press. All right, guys. So pressing out the ball joint wasn't that hard. Obviously, I just put it on the press, pressed it down through the center. It stuck a little bit, but gave it a little umph and got through. But these control arm bushings, I couldn't fit it on my press. So the way that this arm was, I couldn't get it in there. So I tried tried but true drill bit method of going in and walking the bearing out, or the bushing. That didn't happen. So what I ended up having to do, and this is the best example I can give you, is I had to cut down through the center with the saw on both sides as best as I can, then cut across the center to where I was able to peel back the metal sleeving. And then once I'd done that and got the center out of it, I was able to just cut a relief right down through the center with the saw and take the chisel and hammer it out. That's the best way that I found. Still took me a little while, and you see I got this burned up mess here. So now I'm gonna have to punt for a second and go ahead and clean up before I attempt the next one. All right, so now I got it all cleaned up. I got the whole area cleaned up. Got all my goodies over there. So now, before I go to the next control arm, which is here, I went ahead and I've got new wheel bearings for it coming too. So I went ahead and took these off to the side because tomorrow I'd like to get all the brackets and all of everything out I can. Get them cleaned up and painted. It's supposed to be like 90 tomorrow. We'll have to check the humidity, but it's been hotter than hell here in West Virginia. So I went ahead and took these center nuts off. These guys right here. It does take an axle nut socket, 35mm. Put it on there. Of course, just put the impact to it and took it off. So now the next thing is this guy should just come right off as a whole assembly. Let me get two hands here. All right, just like that, it pulled off. No big deal. So, like I said, I do have new ones of those. They actually haven't come in yet, but ordered some Moog ones of it. There we go. So now, the only thing I got to do is clean this up and give it some paint. So, obviously, I'm going to stay off this. I'll probably tape it up, mask it off, make sure I don't get on it anywhere. Got a little piece I need to straighten out there, but that's going to be the cleanup stuff that I do off camera, so I won't bore you with it. Alright guys, since I got this sway bar off, I need to go ahead and measure the diameter of it so I can get my bushings on ordered, because there was a bunch of different options. So I got my caliper here. Looking about 1.1 inches. Same on this side, 1.1. So we'll go ahead and just also do it in millimeters so you can see it. Looking at 27.9. Just hit a couple places here, 27.9. Yeah, we're on 27.9. So 27.9 millimeter. I had to look online because there was a bunch of different options for this, but now I know that I can get those on order for when we go to replace it. And I'll have to look online to see about getting the bolts that I had to cut off up here. It looks like it's just using these clips, so may not be a big deal. We'll have to see. Also, I went ahead and started draining the antifreeze. The petcock on it was broke, so I had to get up one of those. From my F-150 adventures, I think this is the commonly stocked one at the parts store, so it shouldn't be bad. But we're gonna let that drain out. I think, turn this fan off. My idea is drop it down, unhook everything that I can up top, come back underneath, we'll unhook that steering linkage, and we'll go ahead and get these radiator hoses unhooked. And then what we'll do is I'm gonna lower it to the ground and then use jacks to support this K-member and to also support the transmission, because I'll have to get inside and take the shifter and everything off. So once I get that, and I think everything's unhooked wiring wise, and I've got everything labeled, I'll just go ahead and just drop this whole thing and lift the body straight off of it. So what I'm hoping is car will stay chalked up on the wood like this. Drop this down, just go through it. It hasn't made it to 100,000 miles. I did change all the plugs and wires, if you've seen in my other video. If you're not, go watch it. So there's not too much to it. My compressor, I think, is going out because the bearing in it, I might replace it. But other than that, I'm just gonna clean up everything and clean up the K-member. Probably go ahead and get it painted. Just clean up the engine bay and such. Just look everything over. If there's any leaks that I see on head gasket wise or intake, or if I see any drips, or seepage, it's a good time to go ahead and take care of that, and any hard to get to stuff. But that's the plan, so let's keep going. All right, so up top here, I already had the intake off, so just to show you on it, it's a flathead screwdriver there, and then you got 3 connections. The hose just pulls off. You've got the air temperature and then the mass airflow. So those are over here. You simply are just going to push down and push down there and pull it off. As far as this goes, I just had the one screw here that went through the air box right there, and then of course unclamped it and took it off. So that is the filter assembly out. Now the next thing I got to do is I got to disconnect the AC lines going to the compressor, because we're going to drop this engine down. So these are pretty neat from Ford. There's not much to them. You can see they just clip on like so. They've got these 2 levers on each side, one there and one right below it. You can squeeze those out, as you can see, and you can move this right off, and that's going to let you separate these 2 AC lines, because they just slide in to each other. Now, like I said, my compressor's going out and I have a leak, so I don't have any Freon in this. But if you did have Freon in it, you would definitely want to go and get that vacuumed out and before you break these hoses, because they're high pressure and could cause you some harm, and of course the Freon is dangerous to the environment. Now, with that being said, on this, your next one that you got to connect, that's also disconnect, that's pressurized. And then what we'll do is we'll unhook it right here, which again, this is another clip that you'll be able to pull up. You take a screwdriver and basically pop it up, or you might get your finger in behind it. There you can see I'm turning it, but you're going to push it out and then you'll be able to pull this line. So that's going to be our 2 lines right there that are key. So the fuel line, this pressure line, and then this return line. And then we've got a 10mm bolt holding that to the engine. So we're going to go ahead and separate that, so that we know the AC condenser and the AC system is separated from the evaporator coil. And all that, we can move those lines up out of the way, and we know we're going to have a good clearance there. And then the next thing we'll do is pull these radiator hoses. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull it from here and here, take it out of the way, pull this center one that goes down, get it out of the way. And then finally, the next one that we got, you can see this one down here, this bigger one, will go with the engine. if we disconnect these other ones. So there's a junction under there. So that junction, you can either disconnect from up here and take all the hoses with you, or disconnect down there and let all the hoses stay hooked to this. So, but what I'm going to do is just remove them all together. I'm just going to remove everything. So the last hose to be on here will be this one connected to the engine. All right, guys, I lifted the vehicle back up in the air, and the reason for that was I just didn't want to lay down to get these radiator hoses off. So you remember that cluster that was here? It's now there. So lower radiator to the engine, to the overflow tank, and then of course there's our middle hose and then our top hose. So that let me get all that out. Now the next thing I was going to do is go ahead and pull this rack and pinion out. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and drop his compressor when I take these lines apart. So that way I can have all that out and I won't have to worry about it. So the next thing I'm going to do is on this rack and pinion, you've got these bushings that go in there. So here it is, the rod. And of course you're going to have a bushing on the front and the back side. So she looks like this. Now, an easy way for me to get these out is you pull that front bushing out, like so. Then you see I haven't removed this one out till I showed you that here's the rod that bolts in from the back side and holds it. Now, with that unhooked, there is a 13mm bolt that holds the shaft onto the actual unit. So if I grab this unit here, you can see that boot piece wiggling. So it goes up inside this shaft. You loosen this up. Now you'll probably have to peck up on this with a punch or something to get this rack and pinion to let go. But I always go through and knock these pins on through. So you can see I got this one loose. You see how he pulls out there. And that's going to give you a lot more room to work with. So now that thing's going to move a lot more freely. As you can see, it's coming out already there with the other bushing. So I'm going to get two hands on it, get this thing worked out. And like I said, we might have to peck a little bit on that shaft to get this thing to come free. All right, guys, got this off to the side. I had to basically loosen this bolt all the way up, peck on it, it came free. So all that's out of the way. I just set that to the side for the moment, because the next thing we're going to have to do is take an 18mm wrench and go ahead and take this main power steering line off that's going up into this junction, because once you let the engine down, that's going to pull tight on me. So I'm going to have to go ahead and unhook that, and with having to unhook that, it's going to introduce air into the system anyways. So I'll probably go ahead and come out here and take these two connections loose. So one of them's a return from like this little cooler that goes up front, this little cooler bin. So I'll probably take one off there and then unbolt this one off here, and that'll let this thing go free. Of course, this is the clutch cable just hanging out of the way. So let's go ahead and get that disconnected. And then about that time, I would say we're pretty close, other than taking off this pump and disconnecting these lines, to going back up top and doing a double check on there and going ahead and dropping this cradle down. All right, guys, so I went ahead and disconnected the line right here, that 18 and a crescent, got that backed off. I went ahead, for this is your power steering cooler, just two lines run out. I went ahead and disconnected those two. So the one that goes to your steering, it's gonna go up top. So steering's up top, and then your other one right here, it's going to go to the bottom. So it goes here, and it runs up there to the reservoir in that T. So I've just got that hanging up here at the moment, out of the way. Now I'm going to move back over here to this compressor. So it takes a 10 mil and there's 4 of them. What I'm going to do, rather than disconnect these lines, I think I'm just going to go ahead and take it loose from the compressor here, because I got to replace all that, and I'm probably going to replace the condenser too. So I went ahead and took the belt off, which if you watch my other video, this is the tensioner. It's got the 3/8 drive up top here. You can kind of maybe see it. It goes in there, you take tension off and take the belt off. So now we'll go ahead and drop this compressor down. That way I can get up here to this 10mm bolt and just go ahead and take the lines off and get this compressor off. And then go ahead and check down through here. I went ahead and disconnected this cam sensor, or not cam sensor, but knock sensor. I disconnected it, and I went ahead and disconnected the air compressor and just got them hanging out of the way. So next thing, I'm gonna go get this off, and we'll reevaluate here on the bottom and see what else we got left until we can drop his cradle. All right, guys, jumped inside, took my shifter off. This is an aftermarket one that's got the set screw, then it threads off. And then you can just grab around your bezel here, and you can pull it right out just by holding onto the sides, and it will pull right through. So as you can see, there's 2 clips that I'm missing on it. So yeah, right there's one, and I figured the other one's down in there. I'll find it. Anyways, the next thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and take his shifter out here. So I'm gonna make sure the vehicle's in neutral. And then that's a 10 mil. There's 2 of them. I already got one out. It was actually falling. It was already threaded halfway out. So, which was not my doing. But I'm going to go ahead and get it, which that's going to let this shifter go and let us get it out of the way. And then we can take these 4 bolts, which the only thing I could find to fit it good was a 5/16. So I'll take them off. That'll let that plate go, let this rubber boot go, and we should be looking straight down on top of the transmission. All right, guys, so there it is. We're looking straight down on top of the transmission. So now there shouldn't be anything in our way for when we drop that straight down. We're gonna be in good shape. So now we'll head back out to the front under the hood and kind of look at the wiring and see what more that we can disconnect and make sure it's not gonna rip apart. All right, so back up top here, we know by looking at the bottom that this main harness goes down inside of there. So looking at it, we've got a bolt right here going into the side of the fuse box. And then it goes around, we got these clips holding in, and then we just have one ground. So that looks to be an 8mm. This here's gonna be a 13, and then we'll pull this out, and this harness should go down with the engine. All right, so I had to do a few disconnections here. So this round plug, you just squeeze the sides and take it off. Then I had to use a little screwdriver to pry that up to take this one off. And then this one was, of course, it was just here on the side like so. Popped it off. And that'll let that wiring harness go back. I just put the bolts back in place. Now our next thing is, we know that we gotta disconnect the throttle. So these here, you can just simply squeeze these together with a pair of pliers on both sides. They'll pull out, and we'll pop these linkages right off. And I'll show you if I can get this one-handed. You'll see this one just simply comes in and around and straight out. And then this guy here, it actually pops on. So I'll probably have to get in there and release it with a screwdriver. But that's all there is to getting those, and we'll just pull those over to the side. All right, the next thing I'm tracing here is, looks like these wiring that's going across the top. So someone has put these yellow zip ties at the top, securing this to the firewall. So I'm going to go through and clip these. Well, anyways, but I'll go through and clip those. And then we got a connection here that I went ahead and undone, and that went right here. So that's going to go down with the engine. And then looking here, it looks to be this harness is also going to go with the engine. So we have a 10 mil connection here, and then a push clip air, and we should be able to take this wiring harness and just lay it back over on the engine, and we should be good there. And then I'm gonna go through, and I'll have to watch, but it looks like these vacuum hoses might need to be unhooked. I'm just going to watch as I lower it down and just do some double checking. But I'm gonna go ahead and get these zip ties cut and get these connections undone.
Alright guys, so that's everything for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. As you can see from the next picture here, that it's quite a big change coming up on the next video. Please, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. And until next time, let's keep building.